It says recording in progress. So
Yes.
can you see the first screen of the PowerPoint?
Yes, I can see your screen and I can see you and I can hear you clearly.
Perfect. I'll just wait for some people to turn up.
Yes, let's wait like till 8:01, 8:02, then we'll start. Give them a couple of minutes.
Sure. Sometimes it takes a few minutes for people to log in, and particularly if it's the first time. I think you have another webinar going on at the moment. Is that correct?
Yes.
MENA?
No, in Africa.
Ah, in Africa. How many participants do they have?
I'm not sure about that.
Yep. For those of you who have logged into the webinar, we're just going to wait a few more minutes for other attendees to join. In the meantime, just say hi in the chat box and just let me know which region you're from, which country you're from. That would be great. Gives me an idea on who I'm talking to and where they might be. And also to make sure you can hear me okay. Hello, Victoria. Welcome to the webinar. Please do say hi in the chat box and give me an indication of which region you're from, which country you're from. That gives me an idea who I'm speaking to. There should be a chat box. Just say hi and which region you're from. Hey, Victoria from London. Nice to meet you. Which part of London are you from? We're based in Eastcheap in the city. Nice, not far away. We're right on the river. In fact, I use London Bridge, which is on the other side of the river, and I come across to this side of the river to Eastcheap. London Bridge. We'll wait a couple more minutes. Just want to let everybody have an opportunity to arrive. Is that Amir? Amir, is that, have I pronounced your name correctly? Amir Diab? If you're able to use the chat box, just say hi and where you're from while we're waiting for everybody to arrive. In the meantime, I'm just going to pull up some charts. I want to just see how London is opening right now. So I think we had a bit of news for the British pound about 7 o'clock. We're just seeing how things are going to pan out in the first 18 minutes of London session. I've drawn these two lines, by the way. It's a little strategy that which I'm going to talk about a bit later on in terms of how to look at the London Open and take some inference, or certainly take some pips out of the market at the very earliest stages of the market. Right, look, it's 8:04. I'm going to start the webinar now. So I'm just going to run through some slides first, which are mandatory. So the purpose of this webinar really is to have a look at current market conditions, see where things are laying in terms of the Asian session and the close of New York and the opening of London. From that, we can start looking at potential trade setups, if we see any, or just general market structure analysis. Before I go much further, I do want everybody to take a moment to read the risk disclaimer. So please take 10, 15, 20 seconds to read that and understand it. And then I'm really going to go straight into the agenda, which is going to be a bit of introduction on who I am. We're going to do some market analysis. We're also going to look at the tools that Zenfinex Plus have to help traders in looking for trade setups. And before we do that, just a bit of introduction to myself. My name is Anil Kumar, Head of Trader Education. Been trading since 1999. Trading most instruments, mainly futures, bonds, commodities, and forex. Mainly technical analysis, but more latterly algo trading, system trading, if you will. So, an algo trading and system trading really is just a mechanized way of looking at the markets and trading based upon a predefined set of rules. And really, I'm going to look at some different charts and we'll try to get an idea if there's anything really that's looking as if it might be setting up. And also really to show you how I kind of look at charts on a sort of daily basis from a top-down approach. So let's go straight to the charts, and I'll show you what I do when I mark up my charts. And those of you who are kind of new to trading, I would definitely urge you to, before you sort of look to put a trade on, just get a wider perspective of where you are. So let's pull up some charts, and let's start with gold, which always seems to be popular. And as I said, what I try to do when I'm looking for trade setups is, just bear with me for a second, we have some data missing issues. Let's look at another instrument instead. Let's look at the British pound. So what I try to do when I am looking for trades, I look for the longer term perspective and see where the market is in relation to different areas of support and resistance as a starting point. Now, let me just get rid of all these lines and we'll start from the very beginning. So I will start with the weekly first. And I start by drawing what I consider to be levels of support and resistance. Do remember, this is on a weekly perspective. So what I'm really trying to do is frame the market a little bit. Once I've done the weekly, I will go down to the daily. And from the daily charts, look at where we are in relation to the weekly lines. And then we start going a little bit deeper from the daily perspective and start looking for areas where markets have turned. And those of you who've seen my previous webinars, I focus very much on turning points. Why did it turn here? Why did it turn here? Why did it turn here? Because once you start asking these questions on a regular basis, you can start understanding why markets turn. And once you start understanding where markets turn, you can look to those areas for potential trade setups or even trade exits, actually. So we're on the daily perspective. So let's draw a few more lines in here, which are more important in current conditions. So from a daily perspective, we can see really here, I just need to move this toolbar out of the way so I can see the, just bear with me a second. Yeah, so we can see where we are in relation to the weekly lines and to the daily lines. So let's draw another one here. So what I'm really doing is I'm looking to see where we are in terms of, are we in a trend or are we in a range? And certainly, you know, for the last 15, 20 days, it's sort of broken through this area here and now found a level of support and a level of resistance. And we can use these areas really in determining whether we have potential trade setups, even if we're trading short-term time frames, you know, 1 hour time frames, 15-minute time frames. We really want to make sure that we understand where we are from a slightly longer term perspective. And if I start going down to the 4 hourly, and I do this on all charts, all instruments, and what this does, this starts giving me areas where I need to be cautious if I am about to place a trade. Cautious meaning, you know, if I see a trading opportunity, will I hit some level of resistance which may interrupt and interfere with, you know, my targets, for instance. So if we look at from a 4 hourly basis, we can actually see that this level here, which is around, and this is the British pound, by the way, the 23.44 level, has found a level of support, and it couldn't really get past the 25.35 mark. And that's, for me, a frame for any particular trades that I might be looking at. And what I'll do now, I'll drill down to even further, where we're going to go down to the 1 hourly basis. And from that perspective, you know, we can start looking at what is the market currently doing in the context of daily and weekly support and resistance levels. And we start building up a bit of a dialogue in terms of where are we right now? Well, if we ask ourselves that question, we're virtually in the middle of these two levels of support and resistance. So any trading that we want to do, any trade setups we see, we want to make sure we respect those areas, because at those areas, something is likely to happen. When I use the word something, what I mean by that, it could actually mean that there's some resistance here, or it could just break through. And if it breaks through, that gives us information in terms of a continuation of an uptrend. So now let's start looking at sort of the last period of time. So we saw yesterday that we struggled to get past these 2 points here from an hourly perspective. And we can see, as of this morning, you know, we've broken through that, and obviously of yesterday as well, a little bit, broke through it, and now we've come back almost exactly to this level of resistance. So this is where the markets were struggling to go up. They broke through, bounced off it, and then now finding themselves back at that level here. This line isn't the most straightest line at the moment, but I'll do the best I can. So we know now that the 26.64 level is going to be an important level. And what is the next important levels that we're going to be looking at? So we can definitely see here, horizontal here, that from an hourly perspective, this is our trading range with some frames and boundaries that we need to respect. We then start looking at to see from a short-term perspective, you know, is there a short-term trend that we can get involved in, that we can actually look to join the trade? And what I always like to try to do is see, particularly on short-term timeframes, is there a channel that we can use as guidelines to make sure that the trend is continuing? What I mean by the trend is continuing is that we can see here from this level here, reached a level, came back down, couldn't get back to this point, which is now starting to establish that we're in an uptrend. And we can see that it's followed the upward trend, came back down and bounced right off it. So what this has just told us now is this channel is being respected from a short-term perspective at least, and that if we were to look for some trading opportunities around here, we would first watch to see if there was some strength. Let me just expand that a little. So now we can start getting a little bit more deeper. We can see how this channel has been respected. It literally bounced off this, and right now it's going to maybe test this level. So here's how I look at channels. The channels, if they respect, are good indications of entry points and exit points. For example, if through my other analysis that I believe the market was going to continue going up, I would look to be buying at this level once it had shown me that it's going to resist this. It's doing this at the moment. This is an hourly bar, so we're 15 minutes into this bar, and what it's done is respected that. In fact, if I go to a 15-minute time frame, we can see here that it's bounced off the low of the channel, closed nicely above it, and now we need to watch what this bar is going to do, because this bar will be quite crucial, because one of two things can happen. This bar can continue coming down and break through, and therefore negating our channel, which means we don't need to look at that channel anymore. But if indeed it breaks through above this level here, I'll just draw it roughly and I'll get rid of it as soon as I've drawn it. This is the area where if it breaks through, we're looking for this market to continue going up to about here. So this is where we would look from a breakout perspective up to this point here. Now, on that journey, on its way up, so let me just recap. We've drawn, let me just recap so everybody is on side with what I'm trying to say here. So from a 4-hourly perspective, we were able to draw a channel where markets or price action was respecting these two guidelines, these channels. And we're at the bottom of the channel, and if this bottom holds, there's likely a good opportunity that will come to this level. So now let's go back to expanding it. And do we just go in when we want? No, because what can happen is that this green bar could turn into red and continue coming down, which would negate our upward or buy signal. We're looking really to see what happens in the next 15 minutes or so to see, is this going to break? If it does, there's an opportunity for us to take a long. If it breaks on the downside, then if we're trying to follow the channel and the trend, it will negate that, because it will say this trend has now broken. So these are the key things from a perspective of looking for a trade setup, utilizing longer term timeframes, working our way all the way down to shorter timeframes to see where we're going to have problems with our trade. Problem meaning that if I did take a buy signal or a buy trade from this level here, I've got two levels which I've got to pass. One is this one here. And what I mean by pass, I mean that if we were able to get a buy order here, if this market continued going up, there would be a level of resistance about here. And then we would look, and I would look to take some off the table, or even move my stop closer to make sure that if it did retrace from here, then we can protect our capital. Otherwise, once it breaks through this, we've got a lot of confidence that it's likely to reach the top of the channel. And by the way, does anybody have any questions for me? Because I can talk about charts all day long, but really my purpose here is to help you understand what I'm doing. Any questions so far? In summary, work from the longer time frames, look to the smaller time frames, try to put a frame around current market structure and market price, and then look to see where we would be looking to place our buy or sell orders. Looks like there's no questions here. So what I'm going to do, I'll leave this chart here, and I'm going to now look for another instrument. So let's look at, let's see if gold is still showing some gaps here. Okay, second. And by the way, I'm using MetaTrader 5 on the Zenfinex platform. If anybody needs any help with understanding how to use MetaTrader 5, the Zenfinex Plus website, all you have to do is, it's a free membership, just join, and there'll also be some tutorials on how to use that. So if I'm already saying things that, or you don't have experience in using MetaTrader 5 or 4, then do use the free resources that we have with Plus Zenfinex. So this is the gold chart that I was looking at earlier. I want to make sure that we've got data coming into, which we do now. And I looked at gold on Thursday, and I find it very interesting. I did say on the Thursday webinar that I really need it to break and give me some sort of direction before I look at placing a trade on gold. Does anybody trade gold here? Just put yes in the answer box or in the chat box, and then I can spend a bit more time to show you how I trade gold, basically. Just bear with me for 1 second. Right, good. Okay, so I'll continue with the gold analysis. Once I've done gold, we'll have a quick look at some other ones, and then I'll go on to some setups that everything trading, sorry, not everything trading, Zenfinex Plus have. And I'll show you how to use us, because rather than more as a confirmation of your own analysis, but also as potential trade setups themselves. So let's just finish up with gold, and then we'll go to the Plus Zenfinex site. It's totally free and very, very easy to use, and I'm going to show you how to use that. So on Thursday, I drew these lines from a weekly and a daily perspective, and I mentioned on that particular webinar that we're hitting levels of resistance. Do forgive me for some of this charts here. For some reason, I probably have to restart my MetaTrader 5, but I don't have time for that. So I'm just going to be happy with the lines that I drew on Thursday. So we got this triple top, which is quite a good indication that this level above 2047, 57 is going to be tough to break, because it's tried it 3 times and rejected it every single time. That doesn't mean that that's where it's going to do exactly the same, because at some point, it will either come back and revisit these lower levels or start finding new highs. And we can talk a little bit about, the fundamentals of trading in terms of, what is pushing prices up, what is holding prices up at this level, and what is likely to push gold prices higher. And I won't necessarily go into that today, because that's much more of a fundamental discussion. On one of the webinars we'll do in the next couple of weeks, I'll just focus on fundamentals and how you can source information to start building your fundamental approach to your technical trading, if that makes sense, because they go hand in hand and they can be very helpful. So just going back to this gold, we have a similar kind of channel here from a weekly perspective, no less. So we can see from a slightly longer term perspective, there's an upward channel. And if we go to the daily, we can see that markets are kind of respecting this upper trend line, hasn't come back to this, so which actually does indicate a bit of strength. But this upper line is acting not only as an indication of an uptrend, it's also an indication that there's resistance, and we're right at these intersection points where markets came down. The interesting thing about this particular pattern is that when it did retrace, it hasn't come back to the previous levels. Let me just put my cursor on so you can see this. It hasn't come back to this level here. Now, we do have some news coming out later on the week, I think, and we'll look at how to look for news as well in a second. And this is much more of a holding pattern. I think I mentioned on Thursday, and I think the slide that I used for that is this one here. I drew this up on Thursday, where we looked at gold, did the same kind of analysis, and we were looking at the fact that it wasn't able to break this down channel. And when you have, the difference between an up channel and a down channel, it means there's no clear direction, there's no clear trend, and we're kind of stuck in this box. So this was from Thursday. So let's see what it's done from Thursday. In other words, has it given us any more information? And the answer really from a daily perspective is no. And I did mention on the webinar that I wouldn't be taking a trade on gold until it broke these two levels here. Let's start drawing them in so you can see them a little bit more clearer. I'd want to make sure for me to take a trade on gold, I'd have to break this high here. I'll explain why in a minute. And this level here. So we can see by drawing our support and resistance, we're trapped. And I'll draw the box back in again, just so it becomes a little bit clearer. Oops, sorry. So this is that same box, and we're still stuck in this this range from a daily perspective. Even if we go to the 4-hourly, that downtrend that we drew on Thursday, it really isn't showing any conviction one way or the other. And even if we went down to a lower perspective, we can see that any trade that we try to take on gold, would be sort of immediately sort of hitting these boundaries. Now, that's not to say that we can't take reversal trades, but I prefer, for many reasons, to take only trades with the direction of the trend rather than counter trend trading, because it just gives you a better chance of following the trend. If I drew this line here, there's no point really, because we're right smack bang in the middle of this range. Let's draw some of these boxes back in again. We're stuck in this box here, and we really need to break that for us to give us an idea. Is the market going to continue going up to break these highs here, or is it going to break and come and revisit these levels? So that's really, for gold, needs a break out of this range. Then we would be looking to see how it behaved around here. And if it did break this, there's a good chance it will get back over the 2047. So this would be a nice trade once we actually have a better indication of which direction it's going to go. If you were to ask me which direction it's going to go, I wouldn't be able to tell you, purely from the fact that I need confirmation from, the support and resistance and where we are within the range before I would take that trade. So this is sort of looking for trades from a technical perspective. I want to just go through some of the free tools we have on the Zenfinex Plus website. Just bear with me, I'll just bring it up now. So this is the Plus Zenfinex website. It's absolutely free resource, and there are tons of tools on this particular website. And I use things like the economic insights to give me a view on what is happening in terms of news coming out. So right now we've probably got some news, not probably, we've got some Bank of England minutes and speech coming out at 10 o'clock, likely to have some sort of impact on the British pound. And if you're trading the DAX or the Euro, there'll be some news out at 10:30, which is a minor one. It has a low impact news value, if you know what I mean. And then later in the morning, we have some CBI business optimism. And anybody who's in the UK knows anything about the CBI will probably chuckle to themselves a little bit, or not. But these are also indicators on a pulse of where optimism is. You know, they're expecting it to be minus, which means that, you know, the confidence levels in UK business is still subdued at the moment. And then later, around 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, we've got some US news coming out, which again will have impact. And the thing that I wanted to show you actually is the trade ideas and trading views. These are very interesting because they just waiting for them to appear. Let's go to trade ideas. Just need to move this bar out of the way. And what this does is that it provides with more or less what I'm providing, but on a continuous basis throughout the day. What it will do, it'll look at all the Forex instruments and look for potential trade setups. What I mean by that is that if you're interested, for example, in the yen, USD, Japanese yen, it will give you an idea. And they're using channels as well. They're looking for a particular bar pattern and a break from there. So what was found? We found a pattern called the inside bar bearish. So this inside bar was broken on the downside at 7:05 GMT, London time, and on a 5-minute chart. So you can utilize the featured ideas for trade setups. We're going to go through them in a sort of live format, but once you become a free member of Zenfinex Plus, you know, you'll get to know how to use this. So when you're stuck for looking for trade setups or trade ideas, this is the place to go, because there'll be an abundance of signals and trade ideas and trade setups. Let's see if we can get back into technical views. And technical views, you know, instead of me sitting here going through them, you know, for example, on the USD CAD, it's got some resistance lines. It's using also RSI and a moving average to help them determine, you know, where markets going. And in this particular scenario, they're waiting for a pullback back to the moving average for it to then either hit one of these resistance lines. Now, if we read a little bit about it, long positions above 35.20 with targets of 35.65. So there's a good, you know, 45 pips there to be had. And, you know, it's a very useful tool to look for potential trade setups. And what you're able to do is decide what type of instruments you're looking for. I mean, G7 are probably got all the, you know, all the major currencies, and there'll be a list and a time when these setups or ideas are sort of approaching. For example, the euro dollar. If we click on the euro dollar, it will give a view similar. It is saying long positions above 1.1020 with targets at 1065, which again is about 45 pips. So if you're able to get in on this particular trade, and it goes in the direction as they're suggesting by utilizing things like the RSI and the 9 EMA. There's also some Bollinger Bands and a 50 EMA. So they're using a combination of support, resistance, some oscillators, and some moving averages to help them in giving you guys ideas on, is the market going up or down, based upon a lot of experience and a lot of ideas. And what I would always say is, look, if you got a setup like this, we can actually replicate this on our charts. We can say to ourselves, okay, let's see if we can find the support and resistance they're talking about. Let's put the 50 EMA on there. In fact, why not just do that now? So if we go to our Zenfinex platform, we'll go to the Eurodollar. The Eurodollar's, I don't see it on there, so let's add it to our watch. And by the way, as I'm repeating, those of you who don't know how to use MetaTrader 5, don't worry about it, because we've got tutorial videos. You can ask me questions on how to use it. So we're really here to help you learn more about how to utilize these tools, rather than just be left in the wild to try to figure out for yourself. We're offering this free resource. So what were they saying? They were saying there was some resistance up here. I think they drew the 50 moving average. So let's look for the moving average. So that was a 50 moving average. I think the line they use is blue. It doesn't matter what line color you use, but this is what they're saying on their analysis. And I better make sure that I'm on the same time frame as well. And I need to just double check. So just bear with me for a second while I go back to the trade idea. So they're looking at it from just see if I can find it, from a 30-minute perspective. So from a 30-minute perspective, a 50 moving average and a 20 moving average. Let's put that on our charts just to see how you can utilize the combination of the ideas that are given on plus Zenfinex for free, and then plot them on your own charts and see if they make sense to you. And if you regularly attend these webinars, you'll start seeing like a systematic approach on how to look for the right setup. So let's now go to our charts. So we're going to put a 20 and 50 moving average. So this is the 50 moving average. Now let's place a 20 moving average. Need to get rid of some of that. And of course, it was a 30-minute chart, so we're looking exactly at the same thing. So this is a 20 moving average that we want to put on there. Let's make it a different, whoops, that's not right. Insert. Trend. Moving average, this time 20. And well, let's make it a different color just so we can see the comparison. So here we can see, from the description that they gave, they were looking really for a bounce from this moving average and they were looking for it to go in this direction. Let's see if I can draw an arrow somewhere. And they were looking for it to go up to here. So what I've done, I've looked at the options or the trading views that are given on the Plus Zenfinex site. I've then put them onto my own charts and to see if they make sense for me. Now, given what we've just talked about, we would have already gone, from the weekly perspective, from the daily perspective, and we would have started drawing our own lines in the same way that I did with gold, going all the way down to 4-hourly and seeing where, the levels of support and resistance are. There's definitely a level here where prices bounced off it, broke through it, found a resistance, 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 support. So this line here could be quite a good place to put a stop. So if I now go to the 30-minute, as per the trading idea, we can see that's quite far away. So would we take this trade? No, I would not take this trade because my risk would be too much and my reward would be too little. Let me explain that more. So whenever I look for putting stops and targets, I look for the next levels of support and resistance. I mean, from a shorter term perspective, from a 30-minute perspective, you know, we could have put our stop loss here, but we need to break through this resistance level. So for me, I would want to see, and I wouldn't take this trade because it's also a little bit of curling back down. So the point I'm really trying to make on this particular section is when you do get trading ideas, trading views, you know, from the website, plot the same thing on your own chart, get in the habit of doing that and say, does it make sense with additional stuff that I'm going to teach you, you know, in the coming webinars as we go forward. Let's just go back to the trading ideas again. And let's look for another one. Let's see, let's look at British pound. We've already looked at the British pound, but let's see what they say about the British pound. So they say from a 30-minute perspective, they've got the same 20 and 50 moving average. They're saying that there's a chance, in fact, let's read it. Short position below 25.05. It's a pity I can't switch from charts to this straight away, but we can take a note of that. So they're saying that short position below 1.2505, we want to go short. And they're saying that the target is at this level of support, which is around 24.20. So that's quite a nice bit of distance from a 30-minute chart perspective. Now let's plot that onto our chart and see if that makes sense. So let's go to our charts. And that was the British pound that we were looking at. So we've already got you know, the 20 and the 50 moving average. Let me just put a horizontal line where the entry point was, which is 25.05 from a 30-minute perspective. I better read that again. That doesn't make sense. Just bear with me for a second. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. So short position below 25, but they don't actually tell you where to take the short position. So they're taking a reversal from the resistance line all the way back down to support. But ironically, it doesn't really tell you why you would be taking at that point there and that resistance. Never mind. Right, I'm actually going to go to questions a little bit and see if I can't get you to give me some ideas on charts to look at and if I can help you in your own trading. So we've got about 10-15 minutes where we can look at setups that you might be interested in, or actually any question that you think might be helpful to you. So if anybody has any questions, please ask me. Victoria, how have you found it so far? Have you found it useful? Good, very useful. Can I ask you, I mean, it's going to be a bit of a two-way dialogue. Are you currently trading? And if so, what do you trade? You're a beginner trader, fine, perfect. The reason why I like talking to beginner traders is because they don't have all the baggage from going round in circles on the internet looking for a way to trade. So if you're a beginner, you're really at the right place, because at the Plus Zenfinex site, which is absolutely free, by the way, it has some pretty cool stuff there, particularly for beginners, where you can start looking at how to use the MT5, how to open an account, and those type of things. Do you have a trading account already, Victoria? Don't worry, I won't make this all about you, but if I can help you a little bit, that will be useful for everybody. Have you started trading already, Victoria? That's it. So you don't. Yep. So, look, my suggestion would be to join the Plus Zenfinex educational portal, and that have a look around it, come to these webinars, and I'll kind of guide you in developing a path, a direction for you, because as you probably know, particularly for a beginner, there is so much information out there that it can get a little bit daunting in terms of, where do you look, where do you do this, where do you, do this, that, and the other. I would definitely recommend, getting a free membership on Plus Zenfinex, and then just going through the resources. And if you need any help, by the way, I will give you my email at the end of this presentation, and feel free to ask me any questions. I'm going to be doing these webinars every Tuesday and Thursday, and really it's there to help you. So do feel free to do that. Is there any particular instrument or currency pair or gold that you would like me to look at to help you, and how I would approach looking for trades on that particular currency pair? I mean, while we're talking, it's interesting. I think gold has just moved quite dramatically. Just bear with me for a second while I pull up the gold chart. So you remember just a few minutes ago, we were looking at gold, and we saw that it was going sideways. And I'm actually going to go to even a shorter time frame. But we were looking to see what would happen when it breaks out of this particular range. Remember, we went through the whole process of going from the daily, the 4 hourly, the hourly, to say to ourselves basically that, look, it's not right to trade inside here. We need to look to see what happens when it goes outside this range. And that's exactly what's happened. And now what we're going to be looking to do is to look for a short position once we're confident that this isn't a false breakout. What I mean by false breakout is that often what can happen is the price can move outside this range and then go straight back into it. And we're going to just watch this candle, and I'm going to go to a slightly shorter time frame, maybe 15-minute time frame. And I'd be looking really to take a short position. Let me just see if I can draw this stuff for you here. So this would be where I'd put my stop. I would look for a get a pullback to this point here. And I'd be looking for it to go at least down to here with a little bit of an interruption here. So that's basically how I would be looking at this particular setup. We've broken out of this sideways action, which has lasted for a period of time. It's broken out of it. In a smaller time frame, we're going to see if this is going to continue going down. And there is a little level of area here. So if you miss the pullback and you see it break down from here, then there is still a nice amount of pips to be had here. Is it a nice amount of pips? I want to make sure. Yeah, this is on gold, so it's like a good 6 points on gold if it can break from here. So the two ideas that I'd be looking at is a pullback to this point here, or a breakout from here. So we can watch this for a little bit. And I'm really going to go back to the Q&A a little bit. So we can just watch this gold breaking out from this section here. Let's just check on news to see if there was any news that affected prices the way they did. Just bear with me for a second. I'm just going to go to the Plus Zenfinex site. And I'm going to go to the economic insights. So that all happened, 5 minutes ago. So it's anticipation, I think. And I'm going to make sure we're today, yeah. So ECB speech is being probably talked about right now. Maybe there's some anticipation, but I don't really see what else. So it might be something on the news that may have moved prices the way it did. And let's see if it's pulling back. Let's just get that. So prices have pulled back into this area here, as we wanted it to see now if this is a false breakout. False breakout is when people have stops here and have this orange box as a breakout box, and they just jump straight in, thinking that the market will continue going down from a pure breakout. I think I mentioned this on Thursday. Never take the breakout, wait for the pullback. If I just go to a slightly smaller time frame, on a 5-minute chart, we can see that it's come right back to the edge of that box here. And if we see weakness here now, then there's a good chance the market will continue coming down. If we see strength, so the bottom line is, right, we have a potential trade set up. We're going to look at the 5-minute charts. We're going to see if it goes back into this orange box or whether it continues going down. Because if it continues going down, there's a good chance it will get, probably have to go back to the hour, down to these levels here. Let's go back to the 5-minute. Patience is one of the most important things about trading. So we want to not just jump in when we see a move. We want to see, once the move has happened, how it's shaken other traders out. Once they've been shaken, then we can step in and follow the direction of the potential trend that's that's emerging. Right now, we've had the breakout, we've had the pullback. Now we want to see some weakness come in here. Weakness meaning a red bar or a sudden move down. And if that happens, then we'll be looking to place a trade. I will be doing some live trading, I think, in the next couple of weeks. We just need to get a few things cleared. But for now, we can talk through the analysis. Is there any more questions? Do feel free to ask any questions, like when to get in, where would my stop be, where would my target be. I can more than happily show you where I would put those in. Just another reminder, we're now looking at a 5-minute chart and we're using lines that we drew from a weekly and a daily and a 4-hourly perspective. And that's the first thing I said on the webinar, is that it's no point just jumping into a trade when you see markets move. You want to get a wider perspective. And the support and resistance lines is what I use for the wider perspective. So right now, just to summarize, it had a sharp move down. It broke out of this orange box, an orange box I think we drew on Thursday. And now it's testing to see whether it wants to go back into this orange box, or often what happens is you have a breakout, it comes to retest the box, and then the continuation will be down. So it'd be interesting to see what happens, because there are two types of reasons for this move. One is to shake out people that were long and had put their stops at this level here, people who thought the market was going to go up. Remember on Thursday, we were saying too early to get into a trade because we don't know which direction it's going to go. And those traders who went long probably put their stops down here and probably got themselves stopped out. So this is the importance of patience and knowing your areas and zones that you want to be either trading in or not trading in. and looks like it's going back into that range. Too early to say. Remember, there's going to be some Euro news out at 9 o'clock. So we'll watch the 9 o'clock news come in and see how that impacts this particular move. Again, feel free to ask any questions that you might have. Am I missing any questions from anybody? Right, where can you sign up for the next webinar? Victoria, I think if you put your email address in this chat, I'll definitely make sure that you get that. But from a moving forward perspective, it'll be every Tuesday and every Thursday at 8 o'clock. If you put your email address in, then we'll make sure that we send you an invite. I'll leave you my email address, and if you have any questions on how to get started, particularly if you're a beginner, I know how daunting it is. I remember when I first started in 1999, it's tough because there's so much information. Do you trade this? Do you trade that? Do you trade the other? And I always say to beginners, you need to ask yourself a few questions. What time of day can I trade? How much capital do I have? Do I want to be an intraday trader? Do I want to be a longer term trader? So all these questions, you need to start developing the answers to that. And I can definitely help you with that and just put you in the right direction. But do put your email address in the chat here. I'll just take a note of it. And I'm just going to type an answer, which is my email address, just in case I lose it. If you send me an email, then I will make sure, A, you get on the list, and B, if you have any questions, please ask me and I'll happily help you. And if not, come to the webinar on Thursday, and more than happy to help you with your journey. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to sort of give back a little bit of what I've been able to take from the markets and give some back to people who are just starting out, because I know that it can be quite tough starting out. It's literally just need a bit of direction. So we're still watching gold. So right now it's gone into the orange box. We've got news in 3 minutes time, which will probably move the markets. If we start seeing the impact of the news pushing gold down, then that's an optimal time to take a trade. And the target is quite clear. And if we go back from a longer term perspective, we can see that. And the way that you would manage this trade is, once you're in and you've got some profit, take a little bit off the table when you hit this level of support, and then try to ride that trade all the way down to these levels here, to the sort of 1974 levels. That's what I think it'll do. If it'll break through this, break through that, it will definitely come and sort of have another go around 77. I say definitely. This is based upon experience. And of course, it's not definitely, but I always try to psychologically tell myself that when I'm confident about a particular number, I use that as part of my trading. Let's see if there's any more questions. So let's just watch the 9 o'clock news before we call it a day and see if the 9 o'clock news moves gold in any way. But it's broken out of the range, the orange box, which we developed and produced by doing the top-down approach. We said that we don't chase price when it breaks out. We wait for a pullback. We're exactly at that pullback stage now, and this is the crucial time. 2 minutes before 9 news time, we'll see what happens as a result of that. And I do promise you one thing, I think we're going to be doing some live trading in a couple of weeks' time, but I just need to get things, organized for that, and I'll get my live trading account and we'll take live trades together. So Victoria, if you're around at that time, I'll see if I can show you what I do, and it might help you along your way. Is there any questions from anybody else? I'm actually going to run this webinar just a few minutes after 9 o'clock, because I want to see if gold now moves all the way back down to here as a result of news. So we saw it break out of our orange box, we saw it retest, and now we're looking to see. So analysis. If this starts coming down and breaks this, we've got a nice weak market for gold, and we want to be selling into that, basically. If it finds the news pushes it back into the middle of this, then all this was a flush out of stops, basically. And they're the two scenarios that will have happened. So we've got news coming out any second. It might have an impact, it might have no impact, but let's just see. And I will try to do some webinars when we have, 1:30 news from the States and what have you. These are all planned for the future, so we'll see how that goes. And obviously, those of you who are signed up, you'll get a notification of when I'm going live, particularly at some news times. We can look at the trade setups in advance, see how markets react to news, and see how we can find ways of getting into trades. So the news announcement's probably been made, or whatever it was. Not much movement. So it looks like it's going back into this range here. But if it doesn't, and we see weakness, then, as I said, there's a good chance that it will go down to these levels here. If it doesn't, we're back stuck in this range here. Sometimes this is a good way of showing strength, because once the stops have been taken out, then the market has a tendency to push upwards to the top of the range. But again, when trading, you have to get the latest data, follow it, and particularly from an intraday day trading perspective, you need to watch how price behaves at news times, how it behaves within ranges, and then take action accordingly. It takes a bit of practice, but once you get it, it's just the same patterns appear over and over again. I just use these same patterns. I do have some tools that I'm hoping to bring to you guys in the next few weeks, which will make your life even more easier than it is already by watching these webinars. Right, so it's 9:02. Hasn't been much reaction. I'll analyze this chart on Thursday and see what the outcome was, and see if the market went back into the range or if they break down and hit our targets around this level here. I just want to go back to the PowerPoint to make sure I've covered everything. And I also want to make sure that you have, just bear with me for a second. Let's go with this. Shit. So I want to make sure that we've covered everything. So how to access the ZenFinex Plus tools is just go on to this particular website, Plus ZenFinex. It's absolutely free. There's no charges for anything. And then you'll have a look at these before Thursday's webinar. And that way, when I start looking for trade setups, you can have a look yourself on your own screen as well. So we can start doing this together, on a continuous basis. So please take a note of the website. It's a free sign up. There's no costs involved. Get signed up, and then we can start looking at these trade setups together. So that kind of concludes today's webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm glad it was nice to meet you, Victoria, and others. Feel free to use this site, and I look forward to seeing all you guys on Thursday. Thank you very much.